Lewis Clark State College students of African history. Welcome to the office, huh? So we're going to shoot today's video here in the office. This is mostly a transition video. I don't know that I'm going to shoot one of these things every Wednesday, but early in the semester, seems like we ought to have a talk about what's going well, what you can do, what's coming up. Just make sure we're all squared away on that front. So here we go. All right, let's talk about the discussion a little bit. For the most part, I'm pretty happy with the number of discussion leaders that have gotten involved and what you guys have done so far. And I realize it's only Wednesday and you have until tomorrow until this discussion ends. But I wanted to show you a couple of things. I appreciate those who kick things off early. This doesn't always, show stuff the way that, I really wish it would. Let's see if I can, whatever. Here we go. The newest first. I like to have the oldest first so we can see who gets the discussion kicked off, right? One of the things I'd like for you guys to work on as we go through this is for it not to be like Calissa responding to the prompt and then John responding to the prompt and then Sophia responding to the prompt. I'm not saying you guys did that, but I'm saying that, it would be really cool if we could kind of do this as close to having a discussion as possible. And if it is really there's these things that, Calissa didn't cover, and so John needs to cover. Awesome. But you guys feel free to respond to one another, and you guys have done this pretty good. And I kind of, look through this. It's a drawn out way of saying, let's do our best to make the initial postings interesting and not necessarily repetitive. Hey, we have to do it. Now, having said that, my initial glance at things look pretty good. I like what I'm seeing in here. And I think as long as I'm here, I'll just talk for a second about episode 2 because you guys have done a really good job, covering things, right? It's not going to be totally comprehensive. But, we watched it. What's it tell us? How can we connect it to things? And I think that this particular episode really focuses on this issue of contemporary Africa, 2024. It's really dominated by European influence, but that hasn't always been the case. And then going back and taking a look at internal African civilizations, cities, and developments. And going all the way back to the beginning, right? So the first episode goes into that ancient history element. So there's a little bit of a chronological jump. Ancient history, here we go. I bet you're familiar with, ancient Africa, even though you might not have known it. And then there's the jump backwards, right? Hey, let's talk about human evolution and origins of life in Africa. And let's talk about early man figuring out how to carve out, survive in the environment as a major achievement of mankind. And then looking at Stone Age technology through hunter-gatherers, looking at the domestication of cattle. So here we go to animal domestication and also plant domestication. And looking at the role of women, looking at the role of governments, right? That there are governments, things are governed it's just harder to see if we're looking for what we're used to, in terms of looking at groups of elders, looking at age groups. Um, Also, looking at ironworking. This ought to sound super familiar to anyone who's taken History 101, right? He's just kind of walking us through chapters 1 and 2 of History 101 and 101, thinking, okay, the history of human beings, here we go. Evolution, Stone Age technologies, operating within a particular environment, hunter-gatherer societies, development of agriculture, development of animal domestication, development of metallurgy, development of different kinds of technologies that are appropriate to your environment. And in the process, hey, this ought to all sound pretty familiar, right? It's the study of human beings, or the story of human beings. So in a lot of ways, that's really what this particular episode is about, is setting us up in that Paleolithic period, getting through animal domestication, plant domestication, that kind of thing. And then, of course, there's all the really cool stuff, cool to me anyway, about the role of dances and the dance and culture, and how that kind of stuff fits in with the broader scheme of things. Okay, now let's talk about a couple other things. So that discussion on episode 1 looks pretty good. Thank you, last names A through D, and everybody else who participated. You guys got another day to flesh things out. And now, tomorrow, Thursday, right? We need to get cooking on this Caravans of Gold. Some of you guys have already started it. Some of y'all have connected that, hey, a lot of this stuff sounds familiar. Nice job. Okay. So another episode, we're going to do it just like this. It's the same setup. Okay. I like the way things are going. What I have a little bit of concern about is what happens next week. Our video discussion will be the same. After this week, I'm very confident you guys are going to knock that out of the park. This seems to be more or less easy enough. However, I haven't seen anything materialize on the Ibn Battuta book yet. Now, on the one hand, nothing's required. Let me flick this on here, right? So it's the optional discussion about, culture, politics, socials, should be society, for your essay, right? The grand conclusions are required. Those aren't required until you have your essay written. But I kind of envision this optional discussion as the thing where you guys talked about the book as we went. It's not required. I'm not going to make it required. I'm just saying your professor would feel better if I started to see a few postings in here to know you guys are reading the book and thinking about the book, and that we're not going to get to this point next week and I get a whole bunch of panicky emails from folks who are like, oh my gosh, I totally, didn't do any of that. Take care of business. All right. That's for next week. And the book is fun. This is the book. It's nice, great big print. You should be reading it. Even if you haven't started it yet, you have plenty of time. It is not a hard book to read. So you guys focus on that. Focus on the discussions. Focus on getting the Ibn Battuta stuff read. And I'm going to focus on getting week 4 and 5 set up a little more comprehensively. Essentially week 5, we're going to have another book discussion over this very thin book, Sundiata. And week 4, you're going to watch a movie that covers about the first part of the story. And then we will reevaluate where we're at. To me, this seems like a reasonable pace. And if I don't hear from you, I assume it's a reasonable pace for you too. All right, that's all I got for you today. I will try to get something back to you on Sunday, another video. I'm just going to try to do these videos to keep everybody in the loop this way. I would love to receive an email from you in my Canvas inbox saying even just, Professor Martin, class is working fine, really happy with it. Or Professor Martin, pace of class is quick, I'm sweating it, without a group of friendly faces to chit chat with. It's hard for me to know. I am making the assumption that if I'm not hearing from you, it's all good. So, having said that, enjoy your historical studies, and don't think twice about dropping by my office hours or sending me a message through the inbox if we need to talk. Good luck.